And now back to our big conversation with Peter Ndegwa, the CEO of Safaricom PLC, joining me now. We heard him a little earlier, just responding to those proposals by KRA, but it's now time for our substantive discussion. It's good to have you on again, Peter. I'd like to start by just hearing how you would describe the state of the economy, and what 2023 looks like for the economy and for Safaricom.
Yeah. So there's no question that the economy is in a tough place. We are facing a major global crisis. Everyone thought that we had recovered from COVID, but 2022 has seen a significant slowdown in growth at a total global level. We are seeing about half of what was expected, from 6 to about 3%. Inflation is very high. Cost of living has increased. Actually, inflation has almost doubled at a global level, and also fiscal pressure. So as countries struggle to balance their budgets. And that is also translating in Kenya. We saw a recovery last year in 2022 for the first half, recovery from COVID. But however, in the second half, the impact of global crisis started to catch up with us. The cost of living arising from higher energy, but also food prices, especially through the drought. So therefore, the local economy has been affected. And of course, the elections has slowed down the economy. So our customers are feeling it. We say that M-Pesa is the barometer of how the economy is doing. We did see in last year in Q3, so July to September, slowdown in the transactions that customers were undertaking. And that's usually an indication that the economy is slowing down. So looking at 2023, I think we are still going to have a challenging year. Drought is still a major issue, and you know I chair the National Drought Steering Committee, which we can speak about a bit later. But we see food prices still being very high, energy prices being high. So the worst is not over. We do expect that customers will continue to feel a lot of pressure, and ordinary mwananchi will have to deal with that.
So let's talk a little bit about Safaricom's performance, because you've mentioned, M-Pesa being the barometer when, that tells you how things are going. And, for a company that posts record profits year after year, your net profit fell in the 6 months to September by 10%. Your voice revenues also fell by 3.8%, and your total costs were in fact higher. And this is all to do with, what's happening as well in Ethiopia with your expansion in there. Peter, I know you hear this a lot. Could this be the year that Safaricom posts a loss?
I think probably, I would say that is probably an overstatement. I am very lucky, and actually I consider myself privileged to be running the largest business in the region, the most successful. This is a business that serves every adult person in this country has one of our products. So whether it's connectivity or actually financial services product. So it's actually a much more resilient business. So whilst I hear, you expect that when the economy is not doing well, companies like ours will be affected because we serve ordinary Kenyans. But in terms of performance, we reported a revenue of 125 billion Kenya shillings for just one half. Yes, there was a drop because of some of the issues that you have mentioned, but also some of the issues we saw with the mobile termination rates, but also the slowdown in the economy. The costs were higher, as we've said, because of what is happening to energy prices and so on and so forth. But also the profit were lower, primarily because of the startup costs in Ethiopia. We have gone into Ethiopia. We've led a consortium of investors into Ethiopia. It is the second largest country in Africa. It is a significant investment. It's the largest investment by a Kenyan company. So it is the right thing to do for the long term. This company will have to think both in the short term but also in the long term. When you look at our core business within Kenya, we have solid fundamentals. Voice, yes, is about flat to declining because it's a mature business. We've seen it around the West. Across, it's a mature business. But we've grown minutes of use, which means we've continued to reduce price for customers. On data, we saw a double-digit growth. Yes, M-Pesa was affected by some of the issues in the economy, was about single-digit, but we should see that starting to come back. Fixed business, which is home business, is very, very, very strong. So overall, we reported mid-single-digit in a tough environment, showing resilience of our business, showing the strength of our franchise, and showing that we continue to serve our customers in the right way.
Yeah, let's talk about the leadership of this. Peter, we saw the exit of John Ngumi from the board just 6 months after taking over. What happened? This is rather unusual. Could you tell us about, John Ngumi's exit? We'll get to the new announcement this evening. But why did John Ngumi leave just 6 months after being at the helm of the board?
I think what I will say, John resigned from the board. There has been a change in board member, which Adil has joined our board and today was unanimously elected by our board to be chair going forward. I do not want to comment on the period that John served, but John is known as an accomplished professional. He served very well for the period that he was there. He resigned in December, and a new board member to represent the government was also appointed to our board and now has become chair from today, and that has been approved unanimously by the board. Our board has always been very, very stable. This business has had very strong and stable leadership, and that has included the board. So I think, and I've seen quite a bit of social media speculating.
You know what the next question is.
Yes.
Seeing that change,
Yes.
At the helm of the board. And then there's questions about, because, there's a new administration in the country at the moment. Adil is coming to represent, the stake of the government, which is 35% in Safaricom. And there is speculation as to your tenure at Safaricom as well. Are you leaving Safaricom? Is your contract over? Are you being forced out of Safaricom? What's the status of your tenure at Safaricom?
Yvonne, I knew you'd ask me the question because there is social media speculation. When you run a business of the size of Safaricom, it's just like, I don't know which sport team you support. I support Arsenal. There will always be views about what is happening to the manager, what is happening to the captain, and so on and so forth. But for me, from where I stand, the decisions about my role are usually for the board. And now that we have a new chairman, I'm sure it is a question that can be asked both to the board and the chairman. What I do know is I've had a very, very successful 3 years. I came in at a time when this country was faced with COVID. Actually, I was saying the picture that you had earlier on was taken just before I joined Safaricom during the COVID period. We are a company that served the country, kept the country connected, really served the country through COVID. And now we are converting ourselves into a purpose-led technology company. Technology combined with innovation will continue to make a big difference. Technology is the future. Digital is the future. I believe we are in the right industry. We've run the company very well. We've gone into Ethiopia, which is a major milestone for this business. We've launched 5G. We've accelerated rollout of 4G. We have continued to give access to our customers who want 4G, especially both the connectivity side, which we have 97%, but also handsets, because the future is digital. So
and
in terms of my own role,
is the future of Safaricom, does it have you in it? Because you said we have.
So for me,
but does the future of Safaricom have you?
So for me, I plan to continue to play the role that I've played for the future, and I'm not going to comment on that with respect to my contract, because that's a board comment to make. But certainly I do know that the strategy is clear. The management is focused on ensuring this business continue to transform lives and continue to play its role in Kenya. And it has played a fantastic role, and I will continue to lead this business to the future.
So let's talk about Fuliza for a moment. What would you say has been its impact to date? Has it furthered perhaps the SME sector? Have we become dependent on it? There's talk in the country about digital lenders, some of them predatory in nature, or just the dependence that, digital loans create within, communities. What would you say has been Fuliza's impact? Has it helped? Has it hurt? Is it being used in the right way? Is it being abused?
So if we step back and look at what customers need, there's no question that customers need credit. And there's a significant need for credit. We need to formalize that credit. One of the reasons, the main reason why Fuliza was launched by Safaricom is we realized that 50% of customers' transactions were not completing because of lack of credit. And therefore, we launched Fuliza as an emergency credit proposition. And recently we reduced the cost of Fuliza last year by 50%, and also basically zero-rated the first 3 days in terms of cost. So we made it more affordable. We believe that it is the right product because it allows customers to deal with a need they have on an emergency basis. So if you had 1,000, if you are buying something for 1,100 and you didn't have the 100, you Fuliza the 100. So we've seen significant use of Fuliza because the alternatives, the Shylock, the informal stuff, that the interest cost is very, very high. It was the right thing for us to continue to reduce the cost to make it more affordable. Yeah. And we continue to make sure that going forward, we review our products overall to make sure they're affordable, especially in the current economic environment.
But then in comes the Hustler Fund. Yeah. 50 billion shillings of that that has been set aside by the President's directive in every financial year to do exactly what you're doing with Fuliza. So my first question with that is, what do you think the impact of the Hustler Fund will be on Fuliza when now Kenyans have the alternative, which is government, and which the President says is at much more favorable rates than the Fulizas of this world?
Yvonne, Fuliza has not gone away, despite Hustler Fund being a success. But let me just talk about the distinction between the two. So Fuliza is an emergency credit. It's an overdraft that allows a customer to get credit when they are in need, and they need to pay within 5 days. The Hustler Fund is a personal term loan for 14 days. So you borrow 1,000 shillings and pay 14 days later. You may pay it earlier and then borrow another
But this could also affect the Mshwari loans.
That is correct.
Yeah.
But I think the key is, as I said at the beginning, the credit opportunity for customers or need for customers has not been fulfilled in a formal way and in a way that is affordable. So for us, we have reduced the cost of Fuliza, so therefore customers can enjoy with more or less worry-free because they know it's more affordable. And also Hustler Fund has come in to plug a gap in terms of term loan for 14 days and has been very successful, and I'm very happy to talk about it more. And
you're also playing an integral role in the facilitation of the Hustler Fund. In fact, you were there on the day the President launched the fund. So just explain to Kenyans exactly what Safaricom is doing or providing in terms of rollout facilitation of the Hustler Fund. What is Safaricom providing in terms of support?
So Hustler Fund is an example of what a purpose-led technology company can do. The intention was to allow ordinary people to access a credit through their mobile phone in a way that is worry-free, digital fast. So they don't have to go to a branch, they don't have to go to anything. They can actually just opt in on their mobile phone, actually borrow on their mobile phone, save on their mobile phone, and repay on their mobile phone. So the mobile network operators, ourselves, Safaricom, Airtel, and Telcom Kenya, and also a couple of banks, were part of the partnership with government for the initial launch of the individual Hustler Fund to be able to ensure that each of the parties play different roles. So for MNOs, they allow customers to opt in, they allow customers to actually get the credit, and then they monitor the elements around repayments. We also do all the customer service elements, and then the bank channel the funds through that process, so that the funds are accessible. Then the savings product will be handled by a separate entity. So there are different roles that various players play. But certainly, it has been a very big success. 18 million customers in less than 2 months, which means, and they say numbers don't lie, if 18 million Kenyans have gone onto the platform to opt in, it has been a big success. On the day that it was launched, we saw about 5 million customers attempting to opt in. So it is, and it is attractive because it is lower interest, it is hassle-free, and also it allows customers to be in control. Okay.
I want us to talk a little bit about what we had discussed earlier. Just for those that may have missed it, the Kenya Revenue Authority is today saying they will no longer rely on your self-reporting as mobile network operators towards paying your taxes. They want to have these systems, their own systems, put into your systems to monitor your transactions and even have you start to pay tax on a daily basis. I just want, for those who miss it, because there's a couple of questions from our viewers on that, what's your reaction to this? What's your position on that? And then also, as you answer that, there's now the other proposal, of course, for them to monitor our transactions on your platform and of course, of the other mobile operators in a bid to, expand the tax bracket. Kenyans are worried today that, their transactions, even some that are seemingly innocent, might now be subjected to taxes, and that you yourselves will also be subjected to further taxes with what KRA has just said today. What's your reaction to this?
So let me comment on our own tax-paying position. So as I said earlier, we comply with all our obligations from a tax perspective. We are the highest taxpayer. We paid 125 billion last year. So this new proposal about putting more scrutiny in how we pay tax and the process of paying tax, it is a discussion document at the moment that is part of the budget proposal. I said that we need to we need to have a conversation with KRA, understand the implication of those proposals and our role in that. But what I do know, it is we are going to pay the tax that we are required to pay. Of course, KRA may want to do additional audits of how we are paying tax. That is within their remit to have that freedom. But that also has to be approved in the normal way through the budget process and through the parliamentary process. If it is approved, we will of course comply with anything that is legally allowed for KRA to do. Of course, on the other side, do you want to talk about the other side?
The government wants to, take a look at our transactions.
So the other side, in terms of KRA relying on us, I think there, KRA has specific support by law on how they can assess whether I am paying tax as Peter, and they can come to my employer and seek information that allows them to know whether I'm paying the right tax. But that's on a specific basis, so that they are allowed by law. If there is any other change that they want to make with respect to that, it would have to be allowed by law. So we do comply for any legally made requests from KRA, providing they are following the law. We do comply if there's a specific tax person, but usually those taxpayers would also be providing consent for us to provide information.
Okay. You mentioned earlier that, and we all know we're going through what is possibly the worst drought we have seen in 40 years in this country, with about 5 successive failed rainy seasons. And you are the chair of the National Steering Committee on Drought Response, commonly known as the Wakenya Tulindane Initiative. Could you tell us about, what's happening with this initiative? How much money has been raised? What is the disbursement like? What are the areas of need? And what more needs to be done to help fellow Kenyans?
Yeah, I think this is a very important topic because there has been some short rains through Christmas, so some people might decide that drought is gone. But actually, the reality is getting worse. We have 4.2 million people across Kenya, across 22 counties, affected by drought. The next rainy season is seen to follow a similar path to the past. So we'll have 5 failed rainy seasons. So we are looking at, the forecast is now that we are looking at almost 6 million Kenyans affected through our counties, the 22 counties. But even your traditional food baskets, there are some pockets in every county that are affected. So it's no longer those typical counties that were previously affected in northeastern and so on and so forth. Every county has some place that is affected. So we are doing a lot of work as part of the committee. We have a mandate based on the mandate we've been given through the Gazette notice, through the presidential appointment. And we have, you'll have seen through December, we distributed food to 85,000 people across 5 counties, including Meru, it was Marsabit, Kilifi, Tana River, and Kitui. And we are going to do a lot more. We are starting to think about borehole repairs together, or rehabilitation, so that we bring water back for people with the partnership with the KDF. Who have a lot of experience, and NDMA, which is the National Drought Management Authority. Yeah. So we do have a lot of short-term objectives that we are undertaking. There's also a lot of money that has been given by government, but also funding agencies, including the USAID, that are being distributed, both cash transfers to communities that are affected, but also food rations. But the main thing that we are also starting to pivot to is starting to think and enroll a number of stakeholders to think about the medium to long-term elements around food security and how we can support and produce a document and proposals that government and even funding agencies can start to fund. Because it's not just funding the emergency side, it's also starting to think about the future. The one thing that I would say to Kenyans, and we are appealing, we have collected more than 600 million so far as a committee. We intend to collect more. There was a bit of a slowdown through the Christmas festivities, but we are now starting to ramp up the collection. There's an account that we have opened in KCB. There's a pay bill that is a free pay bill for ordinary Kenyans to contribute, including contributing in bonga points, Safaricom bonga points, so that we can generate enough money. It takes about 3,000 shillings to feed a family, so people can contribute any small amount, any big amount. It will make a very big difference. Yeah,
and we have a viewer here who's asking about, you know, the disbursement of the funds. You said you've raised 600 million shillings.
Yeah.
Cash transfers have always been seen to be a more cost-effective way, you know, and moving away from donation of food rations, even for the dignity of those who are being, you know, assisted. So could you speak to us about that process? And
yeah, the person is very right. Yeah. Cash transfers are preferable. Even during COVID, you remember we did a lot of cash transfers, especially for social safety net, those who are receiving social safety net. The reason why we would need to do food rations is if you go to communities where there are no markets, the food is not available. I went to Irilet on the shores of Turkana in Marsabit County. There is no market to buy food. So to the extent that there is food in the areas that we are talking about, we tend to prefer cash transfers. But to the extent that the food is not available, then we would go for food. So it depends on the place that is affected. So all the money that is being contributed by donor agencies or funding agencies, but also government, it depends on where it's being undertaken. We certainly have very strong governance. We have PwC who are doing a lot of the accounting work for us. The E&Y are doing the audit. So as a committee, which is led from a private sector perspective, I can assure Kenyans that the money will be used in the right way to ensure that it reaches the ultimate beneficiary. The second aspect, the second reason why it is important to do cash transfers and or ensure that we get someone to to give for free the transport components so that you reduce the amount of cost, it takes to actually deliver the food to the beneficiaries. And we are targeting not more than 10% in terms of the cost of delivering any food that we undertake to do, so that 90% reaches the ultimate family that needs to be fed.
Okay, thank you very much for your time tonight. Safaricom CEO Peter Ndegwa, who has joined me, and we've discussed quite a few issues. He says he is here to stay. He's not going anywhere. So we are definitely watching what happens at Safaricom. We wish you the very best of luck, particularly with the Wakenya Tulindane initiative. Thank you very much for making the time for us here on Citizen Television tonight.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Peter Ndegwa, the CEO of Safaricom.